When it comes to decision making, most people pride themselves on being rational and objective. But in reality, that's not the case at all. The truth is our mind is constantly falling prey to the different mind traps or cognitive biases around us without even realizing it. By learning these cognitive biases, not only will you be able to make better judgments, you'll also be able to protect yourself from manipulation and become an outstanding decision maker. That's why in this Part 1 video, we'll be exploring the first 12 cognitive biases that affect our decision making and how we can overcome them. Bias number 1. Reward and punishment super-response tendency. Most people often go to extremes when they're offered rewards or threatened with punishment, sometimes even acting irrationally. For example, if a company offers its sales team a large bonus for meeting a certain sales target, the salespeople may push hard to achieve that target, even if it means compromising ethics or making unrealistic promises to customers. Hence, it is important to take a moment to pause and reflect when faced with rewards or punishments, and not allowing others to influence our decisions using this tendency. Bias number 2. Liking or loving tendency. Like most people, we tend to see our loved ones through rose-colored glasses. This oftentimes leads us to overlook their faults and magnify their virtues. In personal relationships, this tendency can influence decisions such as forgiving someone for their mistakes repeatedly, even when it's not in your best interest, simply because of your emotional attachment to them. Consider making a list of pros and cons when making important decisions that involve something or someone you like or love. This allows you to separate emotional response from the objective evaluation of the matter at hand. Bias number 3. Disliking or hating tendency. As opposed to liking or loving tendency, we tend to undervalue the virtues of people we dislike or hate and overvalue their faults. For example, in a workplace, when an employee dislikes a colleague, he or she may tend to focus on the mistakes the person has made and ignore any possible good work the person has done. That's why it is important to consciously recognize when you have strong negative feelings towards someone or something and take a step back before making a judgment. Bias number 4. Doubt avoidance tendency. This tendency stems from our natural discomfort with uncertainty. We tend to prefer clear answers and resolutions, and this aversion to doubt can drive us to rush into decisions simply to avoid the discomfort of uncertainty. For example, a clear indication of doubt avoidance bias is when an investor invests in a company's stock without thorough research due to the fear of missing out on potential gains. In terms of personal relationships, doubt avoidance tendency can manifest when individuals rush into commitments or major life decisions, such as marriage or career changes, without taking the time to evaluate their options fully. One way to overcome this is to make doubt and skepticism a part of your decision-making process. Instead of rushing to resolve doubt, gather more information and conduct thorough research before making an important decision. Bias number 5. Inconsistency avoidance tendency. Inconsistency avoidance tendency is the inclination to avoid contradictions in our beliefs, thoughts, and actions. This thinking error can manifest when you're reluctant to admit you were wrong or to change your stance on a matter, even when new information is presented. One practical strategy is to practice intellectual humility. Acknowledge that it's okay to change your mind when presented with new evidence or better options. Cultivate a mindset that values growth and adaptability even when it challenges our past beliefs or decisions. Bias number 6. Curiosity tendency. While curiosity is a valuable trait, it can become a thinking error when we constantly seek out information without a clear purpose or direction, potentially leading to information overload or distraction. Have you ever found yourself searching for something on your phone, and the next thing you know, you're scrolling through social media, watching random videos, clicking on one link after another out of curiosity? That's the curiosity tendency in action. One practical strategy is to set clear objectives and time limits for your explorations. Define what you want to achieve and allocate a specific amount of time for it. This helps you channel your curiosity toward meaningful pursuits and prevents aimless wandering. Bias number 7. Kantian fairness tendency. Most people have a strong desire for fairness and can become irrational when they perceive unfairness. Consider a scenario where you're involved in a group project and you insist on dividing the work and rewards equally among all members, even when some have contributed more or less than others. This often leads to resentment within the group. Another classic example is when a person feels outraged and boycotts a restaurant for charging extra for a small mistake on the bill, even if the overall cost is minimal. According to Charlie Munger, it's important to understand that not everything in this world is fair. Tolerating a little unfairness to some to get a greater fairness for all is a model that Charlie recommends. Bias number 8, envy or jealousy tendency. This tendency reflects our natural inclination to feel envious or jealous when others possess something we desire or achieve something we haven't. This leads you to make decisions driven by competitiveness or resentment. It's important to understand that these emotions are a natural part of human experience. Instead of acting on them impulsively, use them as signals to identify your desires and work towards achieving them in a healthy, constructive way. Bias number 9, reciprocation tendency. Reciprocation tendency reflects our natural inclination to reciprocate kind gestures or favors. When someone does something for us, we often feel compelled to return the favor, sometimes even when the favor is disproportionate, which then leads to a cycle of escalating favors and a sense of indebtedness. One practical strategy is to acknowledge and appreciate kind gestures or favors without immediately feeling obligated to reciprocate. Express gratitude and make it clear that you value the gesture. If you genuinely want to reciprocate, do so in a way that aligns with your own priorities and without overextending yourself. Bias number 10, influence from mere association tendency. Our opinions and judgments can sometimes be swayed by the people we associate with or the situations we find ourselves in. Think about how advertisements use celebrities or attractive models to endorse products. Our minds automatically associate the celebrity's charisma or the model's beauty with the product's desirability. It's a classic case of leveraging this thinking error. The next time you choose a product or service, focus on its actual features, benefits, and reviews rather than being swayed solely by who endorses it or the colors used in its marketing materials. Beware of this tendency and make choices based on substance and merit. Bias number 11, simple, pain-avoiding psychological denial. When we're confronted with information or situations that challenge our comfort or preconceived notions, our minds tend to deflect or deny them to protect our emotional well-being. Think about a situation where you've received constructive criticism. Instead of acknowledging and working on your weaknesses, you might deny or downplay the feedback. It's our way of preserving our self-esteem and avoiding the discomfort of addressing our flaws. The best way to overcome this is to confront the uncomfortable truths and realities head-on. Rather than viewing it as a threat to your self-esteem, embrace constructive criticism as an opportunity for growth. Bias number 12, excessive self-regard tendency. This tendency stems from our natural desire to view ourselves in a positive light, which leads us to inflate our self-worth, skills, or knowledge beyond their actual levels. This overconfidence can cloud our judgment and influence our choices. Excessive self-regard tendency can also play a role in financial decisions. You might invest in a risky venture without conducting proper research, believing that your intuition alone will guarantee success. This kind of thinking can result in financial losses. Overcoming this tendency involves practicing humility and embracing a more realistic self-assessment. Start by seeking external feedback and input from trusted sources. Constructive criticism and different perspectives can help balance your self-regard and provide a more accurate self-assessment. And there you have it. These are the first 12 cognitive biases that affect our decision-making. If you enjoyed this content, hit the like button and subscribe, as we'll be releasing our Part 2 video, exploring the remaining 13 cognitive biases that affect our decision-making. Thank you for watching. Until next time, hope to see you on my next video.